Well, for absolutely no reason at all, Colorado decided it would be a great time to start snowing. It was like 90 degrees 3 days ago, and now it's 30. Sick. Anyway, it makes for some super awesome conditions. And I came out here to this lake and it's just like absolutely like fogged over. As you can see, it's snowing pretty hard. If the sound sucks, I'm really sorry, but I tried my best to get out of the wind, so hopefully it's usable. But anyway, I thought these were perfect conditions to do some video settings for the DJI Mavic Air 2. I put out a photo settings video a few weeks ago. It seems like you guys like that a lot and it's doing pretty good, so I decided it'd be good to do kind of the same thing for video settings. So what the fuck? Trees are making some weird noises. Yeah, so we're gonna get the drone up and we'll go through some of the best video settings for the DJI Mavic Air 2. God, that's a mouthful. Oh, it's going down my shirt. Oh geez, that's real cold. All right, so first thing you're gonna wanna do, mine is currently in photo mode, so we're gonna switch it over to video mode, and you're just gonna push this button to do that. So we'll click that, and then off the bat, I always shoot in manual focus, which is down here in the bottom right. So just make sure that's selected. If you tap it, it'll automatically go to auto if you're on manual, and if you're on auto, if you tap it, it'll automatically go to manual. So we'll just get our settings right here. So these are the settings I'm gonna shoot at, just with the current conditions that I'm shooting on. ISO, always keep your ISO as low as possible, and then we will get into these settings on the top right with these 3 dots. And don't worry about anything else, just go to camera. And what I always do, I always shoot in MP4. The color, I always do normal. This is because I like to color grade after the fact and in my post-processing. So when I'm editing the video, that's when I do most of the color correcting. So I don't worry about anything and I just shoot in normal. Don't worry about any of the rest of this stuff. I always keep the rest of this stuff unselected. Overexposure warning is actually something that I use sometimes. All that does is if you have that selected and you have a certain area that's overexposed, you can see, because there's so much white in this scene, it's just gonna give you this big grid, like these lines that just show which areas are way overexposed. So for example, at 1/100, that entire area is overexposed. But when you go to 1/60, none of it is. So that's just a good frame of reference to get the right settings in camera so you don't have to do so much post-processing after the fact. We're gonna unselect that. I like to have my grid lines selected, and I said that in the last video just so I can get the framing of my shots right. I don't have a center point selected, but you can see what that does. Personally, I'm able to tell where the center is just based off the X across the screen here. White balance, I pretty much always have it set to auto. I don't really worry about manually changing that. The auto settings on this camera just do it perfectly fine. And then we will get into kind of the basic stuff. So the best this camera does is 4K 60, and that's 4K resolution at 60 frames per second, which means if you slowed that footage down, you could essentially get slow motion with a drone, which is absolutely insane, and I'm so happy that they added that to this camera. So most of the time when I'm recording video, I shoot 4K 60. You're able to shoot 1080 and also 2.7K, but I normally stick to 4K just because a lot of the stuff I do, I upload to stock footage sites, and 4K footage sells a lot more than not 4K footage. So I always make sure that I have that selected. I normally shoot in normal. You can shoot in HDR. That's gonna give you a way bigger image, but it's also gonna be a better image. And when you're post-processing, like I said earlier, when you're color grading, it's gonna be a lot easier to color grade, but it's going to be a really big file. So normally I just shoot in normal, and that keeps my footage to about, I think, 100 megabytes every 15 seconds or something, which keeps the files smaller and allows me to shoot a lot more on my memory cards without having to switch them out so much. You are able to shoot up to 240 frames a second on this camera, and I've never used that before, just because I don't really shoot action scenes. I'd love to get into it, but I most of the stuff I do is still landscapes, so nothing's really moving, but it is possible to shoot like that. Anyway, like I said, I just stick to normal. Those are the most basic settings that I use. I don't really do anything crazier than that. I have done a few tracking shots, but the settings that I use are still pretty much the exact same as I just showed you. There are a couple tracking settings that I'd love to make a video about, and I'll probably do a full video, but I just wanted to do something quick, something easy for you guys to follow, and just get your settings right for your DJI Mavic Air 2. I'm gonna end the video by just flying the drone around, getting some cool shots, but probably be pretty quick just because it's pretty cold out here. And I don't recommend flying your drone in the snow. It has a little bit of water resistance, but not a ton. It's September 8th. Like, it's not supposed to snow this much. It doesn't make any sense. But also, you know, it's kind of nice. Change the weather up. So I'm just gonna make this quick.